Julie, and for the operation in total. So I'm glad that we got that in. So that might be the case every maybe once or twice a month when we do the show, that we might be starting closer to 11 a.m. So I apologize for the delay. 813-90 Bubba. Today is the Ides of March. I don't know if anybody else wakes up and they just immediately remember whatever date in history, or even just a significant date in your life, or a friend's birthday, your mom's birthday, your spouse's birthday. I constantly have dates running in my mind, and I don't know if it's just I got just a knack for it, but I think it's also the case that early on I was told I had a good memory, and then you like work hard to maintain that. You know, when I was a kid, people be like, "Oh shit, you remember a lot of stuff," and then you go out of your way to make sure you drill it home because you don't ever want people to think you're slacking or you're losing your touch. That's probably the worst. And that was not only just with my memory either. I think that was that whole not complex, but that whole way of thinking of constantly needing attention for validation or approval, I think is the crux of a lot of the body image and issues I had with overexercising and food in my late teens, early 20s, is that as soon as you get that sweet, sweet taste of validation, or people start noticing that, you know, you're not a fat ass anymore, you're just toning up. Like, you don't even have to be losing that much weight, but it becomes apparent that there's a lot of body composition happening. You become ferociously addicted to that attention, where you need it all the time. You need people to be noticing you all the time. If you're a guy, maybe like macho, you want people to keep, you're getting bigger and stronger and more jacked. And probably the exact opposite. If you're a female, you're just getting thinner and tighter and slimmer and toner. And you feel like if you're not getting that attention, that you're doing something wrong, or you're digressing, moving backwards. When in reality, you're just kind of like maintaining, but after a while, it's not like people are like, "Oh, you look amazing, you look amazing." You want to keep improving after that to get that next dopamine hit. So maybe that's why I have a good memory about things, because I feel like I was told that as a child. But it is the Ides of March, and for those that don't know what that date means or why it is significant, well, let me tell you. Big fan of Julius Caesar. Big fan. He really expanded the Roman Empire. He actually turned it from a republic to an empire under his rule. He was never actually an emperor, which is funny enough. I think his successor, I want to say Octavius Augustus. I think it was Octavius. I think that was the name, because like you had your real name, kind of like the Pope. You have your real name, which might be, I don't know what his name is, Jose Perez, because he's an Argentinian guy. And then when you become Pope, you're like Benedict III or whatever the fuck he is. I honestly, for some reason, I can't remember who the Pope is. I always think it's Pope Francis. I don't think it is. I think it's a Benedict. There might be an X after his name. I'm not quite sure. It's hard for, again, I have to think something is interesting for it to stick, it is bizarre, but I mean, I guess it makes sense. Where I feel like my memory, although it is quite good, is extremely selective. It is very, very hard for me to remember things that I find to be uninteresting. Like, very hard. Even if I've heard it 100 times, it just doesn't stick. Whereas something that I find interesting once or overhear, I recall conversations I overheard when I was 16, and there was something that was like poignant that was said or profound, and it stuck with me for the rest of my life. Hopefully I don't forget it. So there's that element to it. But yeah, so the Ides of March, I believe it was 44 BCE, however you want to, whatever that may mean to you. Some people say before Common Era. Some people say before Christ era. I'm not quite sure exactly what it is, but 44 years before year zero, which is weird. Because when I think about Jesus Christ, I mean, you got to think about how influential that man was. Do I believe he was a real guy? Sure. Why the fuck not? Is there any evidence of his existence? I don't know. Depends who you ask, I suppose. People always say, oh, there's remnants. He had I guess he was wearing some linens when he was in the cave and that was being blocked by, I believe it was a boulder. Again, I'm a Jew. I'm sorry, I don't know much about the New Testament. And then he resurrected but left the clothes and the boulder. It was like a Houdini trick. David Blaine, where did the body go? Jesus pulled a fast one on us. But to think that you're such an influential character in the timeline of history, that not only do you give birth to the largest and most widely accepted and followed religion that has ever existed, and that's just by virtue of the fact that there's more people on the planet than there were 2,000 years ago, so just numbers-wise. But for that to get legs, you got to think about, okay, so we think Taylor Swift is cool. Like, let's think about Jesus for a second. Compare and contrast. Yeah, Taylor Swift has got some great hits, but like, are we really going to be singing "Shake It Off" in 2,000 years? Probably not. Probably not. Jesus Christ, more popular now than ever. It's like he just seems to be gaining steam, and it's crazy because like among his contemporaries, I don't think he was too popular. He kind of was like punk rock. There were a few Jews. Most people were not fans. You had the Romans. I believe the Romans were the ones that were occupying. I think they occupied something along the lines. I think 1 in 5 people on the planet during the height of the Roman Empire was under Roman jurisdiction, was a Roman citizen. So you got to think. Not only does he's not very popular among his contemporaries, which I get it. It takes time. You come out, you go, I'm God. I'm the son of God. And people go, shut up. So it took a few hundred years to really get the steam really to get rolling. And then not only do you become the figurehead of the largest religion, the most widespread religion that ever existed, your former captors, the people who killed you, not the Jews. Judas maybe turned you in, all right? He ratted you out. He was a bit of a Michael Cohen, if you will. But he didn't kill you. It was the Romans, sir. Or Pompus Padeus, or whatever the fuck his name is. I can't remember. Anyways, you get crucified, again, by the Romans. And then, what? 1,000 years later, less maybe? I'm trying to think about when the Roman Empire kind of transitioned into the Byzantine Empire, and Rome became the focal point of that empire, and then of the Christian faith. You think Rome, the Vatican, Pope, who do they all follow? Fucking Jesus Christ. I mean, that's insane. So your captors, the people that killed you for being a dissident or, a blasphemy or whatever they accused him of, they kill you, and then turns out, now they're marking out to you 1,000 years later, singing your praises, doing the hymns. You're their God, their savior. I'm like, that's pretty fucking pimp. P-I-M-P. So anyways, sorry I got on a Jesus Christ tangent, but I have to say that he's probably, arguably, the most influential person that ever existed. Ever. I mean, if someone could call in and make a case for someone else who is more influential across the course of humanity, I would like to hear it. 813-90-BUBBA. I'm really trying to rack my brain right now. I'm kind of on the spot, but, we think celebrities are big, and they are, and politicians are big, and they are, or tyrants are big, and they are. But, I mean, I can't really think of anybody who is more influential than our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I wonder. But anyways, back to the Ides of March. Julius Caesar, 44 BCE, 4 years 0, gets murdered by his, I kind of want to call her his mistress. I forget her name. I forget. Fuck. I did know this not too long ago. But his mistress, his long-standing mistress, it wasn't his wife, but they were Sevilla. I think it's Sevilla. I didn't look at chat. Check it. You can, fact check me if you will. He's with this woman who I guess he loves, but he never married, and it's her son, Brutus. And Brutus is in pretty good standing with Julius Caesar. I mean, I think they work well together. I'm pretty sure Brutus was in the Senate, And they decide, a bunch of people in the Senate decide Julius is getting a bit too big for his britches. They didn't like how he was handling business. And much as it was the case, even to present day, but sometimes the most powerful position is the most dangerous position. You know, ask Gaddafi, who was having plastic surgery while he was awake. He was awake. He was very vain, but he was also petrified of being assassinated while he was under, and he didn't want to be compromised. So I think he was going to, I don't know why the Brazil's in my head, but I don't know if he was getting work done by Brazilian doctors or going to Brazil for plastic surgery, but he was so fucking paranoid that he would have like facelifts and stuff while he was awake, just awake, you know, crazy stuff. You think about Joseph Stalin was highly paranoid and insulated himself and sent everyone to the fucking gulags because, I mean, even as his wife's family, I believe his first wife, I may be remembering this incorrectly. I don't think I am. His first wife committed suicide because she's like, I am fucking stuck with this asshole. There's no way out. He's going to send my ass to the gulags. Or maybe he had already sent her family to the gulags. Or, you know, prison camps, essentially, work camps. And she killed herself. And then I think he sent the whole family there and they all, like, you know, worked and died. And I remember he was in the Kremlin in Moscow and just paranoid as shit. Like, I don't know if he lived there alone, but he didn't trust anybody. You know, as soon as you reach that pinnacle of power, that's when you're the most paranoid. I mean, I'm sure Putin feels the same way. I know the president of the United States is pretty lucky because they have, you know, security, secret security, and a bunch of other things that kind of insulate that person. We live in a freer society, and we also live in a two-party state society, which I think creates somewhat of a barrier against outright revolution. Revolution seems to bubble up when you have an authoritarian figure and one way of living. There's no choice. You know, so for example, you know, we got Biden in now. Some people are happy about it. I've yet to meet one, but whatever. You have a lot of people that aren't happy about it. How do you express your opinion? Well, you take it to the ballot box and you vote for the other person in the next election cycle. And it goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, which is what we've seen. I think we've had what? I'm trying to think of two same party presidents back to back. Maybe Bush Reagan, right? Or the other way around. I'm sorry. Reagan Bush. Maybe that's it. Because then you get Clinton, and then you get Bush 2, and then you get Obama, and then you get Trump, and then you get Biden, and then maybe Trump. So it like goes back, it flips back and forth, and that is how the kind of the public speaks when they're dissatisfied with the current leader, is that they vote for the other party, which seems like it's the rogue thing to do, but it just swings like a pendulum back and forth, back and forth. Whereas when you have more of an authoritarian governing style, the only way to voice or change the course of your country's history is outright revolution. You know, that's kind of what we're seeing in Haiti, where they're, you know, burning people alive, perhaps engaging in a luau a little bit, having some, you know, thigh meat, chewing that, eating that for dinner, cannibalizing each other. People are probably leaving in fucking inner tubes like, get me the fuck out of here. This is a nightmare. You saw that in China, the Chinese Revolution, leading up to Mao, and then thereafter, actually pretty much like a bloodless revolution. It wasn't so much a revolution, but Mao decimated that country, killed 100 million of his own people. You know, you see the dissolving of the Soviet Union, I guess, which I don't think it was that. Well, then you also saw you had the dissolution of the Soviet Union, which in and of itself, again, I don't want to say it was like a bloody altercation. I'm sure there were some little things that happened, but you see, like, for example, there were like proxy things that were happening, like Yugoslavia, which is extremely complicated, by the way. I really did try to do a deep dive a couple weeks ago into Yugoslavia and the Bosnian War in the early mid 90s, 92, 95, something like that. that shit is confusing as hell because you got like 6 independent states that are now independent states that were all part of this like a Soviet Republic Yugoslavia, and you had the Bosnians that were fucking Muslims, and then you had the Croats, but then you had the Serbs, and the Serbs didn't like the Croats, but the Serbs kind of, hated the Bosnians, and they started, the genocide happened, and then the Croats were like, that's not cool. It is so fucking confusing. I was trying to like go through it was just, I was like, I hope I don't have to give up here, but maybe I just need to dive deeper into it. Very interesting stuff. But anyways, Julius Caesar gets murdered, Ides of March. And it's kind of cool that we actually have a date for that. Because you got to think this is, it's not, is it considered ancient? What does ancient mean? Does that mean before recorded history? Because it's clearly recorded. But ancient Rome, I suppose. Interesting stuff. So he gets murdered by one of his closest confidants, who is Civilla's son, who he kind of took Brutus under his wing, and Brutus was the one that fucking stuff. And I don't know if that's exactly how it went down. Maybe Shakespeare was a bit dramatic about it. I don't know if it was exactly Brutus that gave the, I think it was more like they all were stabbing him. At least that's what I remember watching. I watched a couple documentaries on it, and I think he was especially surprised when he was like, et tu, Brute, like, and you, Brutus, even you are going to stab me to death, and that's where he died. On the floor of the Senate, wherever it was, where they would meet, and he just bled out. And it was a little sad. But that's what happens when you are in the apex position of power, is when you are, I don't want to say the most vulnerable, but kind of, because everyone's vying for that spot. Everybody wants that spot. So let's take a few calls. Happy Ides of March. Who's this?
I'm Hummel, Joe the Supermarket.
Of course it is, Joe. What's up?
I just found out my oxygen hasn't been connected for probably like the past 30 minutes.
Oh, dear.
So I'm
glad you're still alive.
I'm back in the game. Yeah, that's all. My levels go down a little bit, and sometimes you can feel a little bit crazy. But other than that, I was really marking out to you talking about my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. That's amazing.
Yeah, he just seems to be getting more and more popular. And, I think that's great that people, the image of him or the idea of him or his alleged teachings bring people a lot of peace and a lot of calm and a lot of comfort. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. But then when you think about, like, let's say, I don't know, the Crusades, maybe not the kindest time in history, that was also fought in the name of your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
Well, you know what has me amazed right now is the youth movement. I can't believe what's going on. They've made Jesus so cool that literally tens of thousands of people are going to concerts to worship the Lord. They're all lifting their hands, and they're all like. You don't
think that's kind of like lame? I know we watched something recently, or we talked about something recently. I think it was when I was hosting, where there was like a club, like a Christian club, where there's no drinks. And they played Christian music, and everyone was like dancing around and just having a great time doing fun, clean shit, which to me seems like the worst time ever. But maybe to people like you, that's appealing.
Lame. Like, even I would never go there. I know nothing to do with that.
Because it's fucking lame, right? Like, just admit it. It's
so
kind of
fucking lame.
It's so fucking lame.
Kicker. Now we got cool ass people, musicians that are just bad as hell. You would look at this guy and say, he is so fucking hot. Oh, my God.
Oh,
and his
wow.
voice is amazing. And he's leading in tens of thousands. I'm talking like he's selling out buildings, going on tour, 12,000.
What's this? Are you giving me like just a hypothetical, or you're saying that this is a real thing?
No, this is a real thing. Brandon Lake is the singer. If you ever want to look up his...
Say it again, Brandon Leak?
Brandon Lake, like the lake, like the lake of water.
Yeah, okay. And he does Christian music and rocks out.
Yeah.
And everyone gets just high on Christ and high on life and stuff.
But it's different. It's not like your typical lame, oh, I love Jesus music. It's like
actually good.
Fire, man. He's got some of the vocals and just the way that he spits. Like, there's a song called Can't Count 'Em. There's another song called Coat of Many Colors. They're all just rocket fuel, absolute fire.
Do you ever doubt? Do you ever doubt, or just doubt is a strong word? Do you ever question your own belief system? Do you ever go like, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's not right?
You have to doubt, because if you did it, then you wouldn't be human.
Okay. So you do have moments of doubt. So
yeah,
you feel like, so when you tell me that 100% Jesus is real, 100% God is real, 100% it's the ticket to salvation, you're being disingenuous because even you don't fully believe that narrative.
No. I believe that Jesus Christ is 100% real, came to earth, died on a cross, rose again, ascended to heaven, so that we could live and we could be forgiven.
So what do you doubt? So what aspects are you doubting of your own faith?
The aspect that I doubt is when I'm watching church, and then they come on and they start asking for money, and they're all dressed so good, and the building is so beautiful, and the cars they drive are amazing, and
their jets are super cool.
Like, the super churches really kind of blow my mind. Now, I agree 100% with the message they deliver, and I agree that they reach all around the world, and it's amazing, and they do amazing things. But my God, there's so much money that's flowing in.
Well, that really has nothing to do with Jesus and everything to do with the people that are kind of capitalizing that message and using it to their advantage. I'm asking if you doubt the faith itself. Like, are there aspects of it where you go, I don't know if that fucking happened. I don't know if he really walked on water. That seems a bit rich. You know, do you ever think that?
I also could think maybe some of that stories are metaphors. Maybe the walking on the water and calling Peter out of the boat and having him walk, but then the waves were crashing.
Well, maybe him rising from the dead is a metaphor. Maybe the resurrection is a metaphor. Maybe the crucifixion is a metaphor. Maybe, you know.
Yeah, but that's not because that actually happened.
Oh, okay. Why? Because it says it in the Bible. Yeah, there's other parts of the Bible that you question because they sound like bullshiz. I'm just asking questions.
No, of course, and I love asking questions, and I love thinking provocative thoughts, because there's some times where I'll say some things about Jesus, or I'll bring him into something that's dirty, and it's funny to me, and I feel dirty doing it and saying it, but it's so funny. Like the time I was on Bubba's show, we were talking about jacking to Jesus.
Yeah. Do you ever? All right, hold on. Do you ever doubt the inception or conception of Jesus, where he was? Oh shit! Where he was birthed of a virgin, a 13-year-old virgin. Basically, she was raped by God and had a baby. Do you believe that story of the Virgin Mary?
Yes, because here it all comes back to just believing in John 1:1. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So I believe in God, therefore I believe in the Word. So,
but you said you don't believe all the stories. You said some of them sound like they're made up, like they're fiction.
I didn't necessarily say they're made up. I'm just saying, like...
You said metaphor, and that a metaphor is not a real thing.
Okay, but it could be used like Jesus.
It's a literary
device. For example. So let me tell you this. Jesus taught in parables. Jesus didn't just come out and say, "Hey, this is this," and boom, and now he wants you to figure it out for yourself. So when he told the story about
Snizzipe, sorry, gotta go. I was looking at something else, guys, and then it occurred to me. I'm like, someone's probably sniping him. Snipe by Spike Fast Racing. I'm so sorry. My eyes are getting aggressively worse. 1999 with the snipe. Sorry I let that go on. And John Kostika, God bless his sweetheart. Snipe at your own risk. $49.99. Joe, you're making the operation so much money by calling in, so maybe you should call in again and get sniped again. I'm just saying. Perhaps. Yes, I do love I love history. I do. And I go a little bit deep. I know Lummy really likes anything from like 1900 on, especially American history. Not that I prefer, but I like to go, I'm more of like international, and I like to go more like deeper into, farther back in time is what I'm saying. I like that sort of shit. I recently watched the Alexander series on Netflix. My mom heard me talking about it. She's like, fuck, I gotta watch this shit. She liked it very much. I love that combination of the commentary with the acting. And it was a little bit jarring, too. Like, the first episode, we got two dudes making out. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Not because I really care or it grosses me out or anything, but like to see it. I know it's not network television, but to see it on Netflix, where you're just like, well, I just wasn't expecting that. I'm like, hell yeah, Netflix, get it on. And they were even making comments about it. They go, in ancient Greece. So for those that don't know, Alexander the Great preceded, let's say, Julius Caesar by about 300 years. He was from Macedon, which was a Greek city-state, a pretty shitty one at that. I think that the people that were from, they weren't even considered like real Greeks. You know, the people from Athens or the Spartans or the people from Thebes were like, fuck these Macedonians. They're shit all. They're nothing. They don't have a lot of wealth. And Alexander the Great was like, you know what? Suck it, bitches. And he leaves Greece. He goes into Asia Minor. And he just has this epic collision with the leader of the Persian Empire. And he played this game where he was just, I love also like, what do you call it? Just like military tactics. You know, I'm not really into military stuff. I'm not too interested in weaponry and that sort of technology. That doesn't really interest my brain. But when it comes to tactics, especially in ancient times where you couldn't just drop a fucking bomb on somebody, you really had to be tactical about it, especially if you were outnumbered by them, which Alexander surely was. And he kept having these interactions with Darius III, who was the leader of the Persian Empire, over the course of several years. And he would use the geography to his advantage. So there'd be like a mountain range, and Darius would have 100,000 soldiers, and Alexander would only have 40,000, and he would fucking beat him every time. It's just he knew how to just expose their weaknesses, create a rift in their front line, and that would create a gap, and he'd go right through the gap and try to kill Darius, and unfortunately he never did. Darius was killed by I think the second in command. Like, he had a high-ranking general. A few of them had died, but the few that decided to stick with him, another one abandoned his post and started working for Alexander because he was like, dude, I can't, this guy's losing. I was promised Darius' daughter in marriage, and she was not kidnapped, but they lost a battle, and Alexander took in Darius' wife and fucked her and had a kid with her. Now, I think her and the kid died in childbirth, so I don't know if that's a win. But, yeah, he took his wife, Darius III, and Alexander have an altercation. They have a battle. Darius flees, leaves his wife and his daughter on site. Because apparently that's what the Persians would do, because they were so confident that they were going to win. At least Darius was confident he was going to win, that he brought his wife and his daughter to the battlefront, to the battlefield, to show this great victory that they were about to have. But unfortunately, it didn't go in their favor. Darius flees, or I don't know if he's like taken away. I don't know if he wants to leave, but they were like, you cannot die here, because if you die here, that's the end of the Persian Empire. So we got to get your fucking ass out of here. They take him, but they leave the women. And Alexander comes in, and he takes his wife and he takes his daughter. He doesn't kill them, but he takes Darius' wife and makes it his own. Well, I don't know if they got married, but he definitely fucked her, and she got pregnant. And then I think she died in childbirth. And his eldest daughter, I forget what her name is, it starts with a B. But anyways, his eldest daughter was promised to one of his generals. And as the years go on, he starts to realize he's going to lose his entire empire. So he just starts to try to bribe Alexander, through messengers and stuff. Tries to bribe Alexander. I'll give you, X amount of, I don't know what the currency was, but whatever, gold coins. I'll give you half of my empire, and you can have my daughter's hand in marriage. Well, Alexander gets this message, and then he makes sure that when he sends a message back, it gets in the hands of that general that was promised his daughter's hand in marriage. So obviously that guy's pissed, because he's like, I thought your daughter was for me, and now you're giving it, offering to Alexander. So anyways, that guy abandons post and eventually starts to work for Alexander. And Alexander's like, look, you can have this fucking bitch if you want her. You work for me. You tell me all the secrets. So, anyways, and that was pretty much the end of the Persian Empire. And before he even like goes with to the final battle with Darius, you think he's making steam, he's making advances ahead. He stops, and instead of continuing on eastward, he decides to go into Egypt. He's like, "We're going to go to Egypt." Those people are more than happy to accept Alexander as their leader and protector because they're currently under the rule of Persia, the Persian Empire, and they hated the Persians. So they're like, "Fuck this guy. We don't like the Persians. We don't like Darius III." And Alexander comes in and he's like, again, this is what they show in the video. He comes out. Obviously, he has no weapons on him. He's like, "Look, I'm here to protect you guys, protect Egypt. I'm a demigod." Apparently, his mom had told him, "I'm the son of Zeus." So he goes, he gets this oracle reading by some oracle in this middle of the fucking desert. There's this oasis, and this bitch is like, "Oh, you're actually the son of Amun-Ra," which is essentially like Zeus. They have flexible deities. And then Alexander is even more stoked, comes back. Everyone's like, "Oh, shit, the oracle said he's like Zeus's or Amun-Ra's, same thing, son. Holy shit, he's a living god. This is incredible." He goes, he faces Darius III for the last and final battle. I think it starts with the G, whatever the place that was. It's in modern-day Iraq. Whoops ass. And he wasn't satisfied. Alexander was not satisfied. He's like, "Fuck that. I didn't get to kill Darius," because Darius, again, has to flee because he's about to lose the battle. So he goes on a mission to find Darius and kill him himself. Unfortunately, the second in command of Darius decides to kill him, and they find his body wherever they find his body. And Alexander was kind of pissed. He's like, "Dude, you really took all the joy out of the murder that I wanted to do. I wanted to kill him with my own hands." Anyways, but which is even more bizarre is they bring him back to, I think it was Babylon, maybe. Because that was like the epicenter of the Persian Empire, which Alexander takes over. And they throw him like a proper funeral. They go, "This man was an emperor. He was a king. He was a leader of a great empire, which is now gone. We're going to give him the proper burial he deserves." Really interesting thing for someone who's like so brutal to have such like adoration and respect, I guess, for another leader. I kind of get it though, because they're like, "This guy was amazing and I beat him. This guy was an incredible leader of an incredible empire and I took it over. So let's give credit where credit is due." I don't know. I kind of see it, kind of don't. 81390 Bubba. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangential ancient history. I love Greek and Roman history. It's awesome. It's fucking so cool. And I love the fact that you can watch this epic story unfold. And it would just be a great story as is if it was just fiction, but it really happened. It really fucking happened. And that's awesome. Super cool. There's a lot of work being done in Alexandria, which was founded by Alexander the Great. And because it's been, I guess he established it in, I don't know, like 334, 333 BC, over 2,000 years ago. Incredible. And there's just been layers upon layers of, the city been built on top of each other. And they're doing deep, deep excavations where they're finding like the first layer of Alexandria, finding all these old statues and gold coins that were used at the time of Alexander. Apparently he's buried somewhere there. They don't quite know where. But just an epic leader, an epic influential person in history who really changed the trajectory of everything. And even he doesn't even hold a candle to Jesus Christ, okay? It's really hard to get on Jesus' level. It's like Jesus Christ, Taylor Swift. What do you think? George Washington, Mao Zedong. I don't know. I'd like to hear what you think. 81390 Bubba. People who, and maybe you can, like, don't just throw me a name. Like, give me a compelling reason why the person that you suggested was so influential and changed the course of history. Maybe, did I get it? No, there's a fly in front of me. Maybe Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan. I think that's how you actually say it. A Mongolian leader. Very interesting story. I think I already read that. Sorry, John Costica. I'm going to give you another shout out. $49.99. Thank you very much. Yeah, Genghis Khan, also a very interesting character, came from nothing. I love those stories where it's like, you know, Alexander the Great kind of had a leg up. His dad was King Philip II, so he was going to have the throne of Macedon no matter what. Now, he could have just stayed in Macedon and done nothing, but he decided he was going to go on this epic journey to try to expand the empire of Macedon and really promote Greek and Greek culture. Oh no, where was I going with that? Genghis Khan. He came from fucking nothing. He was a peasant. He was the son of a peasant. He himself was a peasant and just fucking clawed his way to the top. And I know that many people have talked about how Genghis Khan has influenced like the genetics of the region. What is it, like 1 in 10 people have his DNA? Like, I think he's obviously well known for being the leader of the Mongolian tribes, because there were a lot of like warring tribes in Mongolia at the time. I think this was around like the 13th century, around like 1200, 1235, I think is when Genghis Khan existed. And there were all these warring tribes, and he was able to, you know, he became the leader of one of them and then started to have them all like merge under him. So he was like the leader of all of these warring tribes. And I think that they fought, I don't know if they fought the Huns or the Hands, I forget. But anyways, incredible person in the sense that, I mean, a brutal leader, of course. I mean, but you had to be in order to win and make ground and conquer others. But he's known for having quite a harem of women, who I think he would discard after the age of like 24. And all these bitches were just like, they were just a kid factory for him. And so I think he had, someone help me out here. Like, I'm going to fuck up the number completely. What do you have, like 8,000 kids, 800 kids, 1,000 kids, which was a lot for that time or anybody. I don't know if he's the person who's fathered the most kids. I think he does have that title. But then you got to think those kids have kids, and then you have your DNA in about a tenth of the population, you know, 1,000 years later. Pretty impressive stuff. Another impressive figure in history. 813-90-BUBBA if you'd like to call in and contribute to the conversation so that I could have someone to talk to. Sorry, Joe. I know we were talking about Jesus. It was going well, but unfortunately I have to respect the money. As always, 32-hour work week is something that Bernie Sanders has proposed. Bernie Sanders on Wednesday introduced a bill to establish a standard 4-day work week in the United States without any reduction in pay. Now listen, I'm a working woman. I'm a working person. I get it. I love it when we have time off. I think everyone does. I think even if you really love your job, you look forward to leisure time or time where you can just have, you know, relax, go to the beach, just sleep the fuck in. That's the main thing with this job is I love it. I love coming here every day. But the 5 a.m. wake up, which is going to maybe be a little bit earlier for me, you know, in the next few weeks. That's the only part where I'm like, okay, no. But 4-day work week, 32 hours will be considered full-time. The bill over a 4-year period would lower the threshold required for overtime pay from 40 hours to 32. It would require overtime pay at a rate of 1.5 times a worker's regular salary and workdays longer than 8 hours. Blah, blah, blah. It's weird to want something, but also think it's not the best move for society. So you want, if I'm Johnny, I was about to say a cobbler. I couldn't think of it. I have an ice cream store, okay? And nobody is going to be buying more ice cream. But now my workers who were working 40 hours a week, getting benefits. This is a pretend story, obviously. Getting benefits, working 40 hours a week, now are only going to be working 32 hours a week. If they work any more than that, they'll be getting time and a half. Maybe they don't want to work more than that. Then I maybe have to hire on more people, pay those people, and probably pay those people more because the minimum wage or whatever is rising. Cost of living is rising, and, you know, wages kind of lag behind that a little bit. So me as a small business owner, I have to now either employ more people, pay them more. They're going to be working less. I'm not going to be selling any more ice cream than I was before, but I have to pay these people to work less for me. Unreal. I don't see how that can work. And then on top of that, Bernie Sanders, I mean, I haven't heard him say this directly, but I know that he is of this ilk where it's like, we don't need borders. Let people in and we'll take care of the migrants and they need help and we'll give them money. So you want people to work less. You want the country to essentially generate less wealth, but you want to increase the spending. Now, I'm not an economics professor, but I do know about, supply and demand. Less does not equal more. How are we going to generate more wealth when we're asking people to allowing people to work less and requiring businesses to pay them the same amount? So they're less productive. We pay them the same. The companies make less money. Maybe that puts them out of business. Now no one has a job. I just don't see the logic of this at all. And again, it's unfortunate because it's like, yeah, that'd be badass if full-time was 32 hours. I get it. But also I'm looking at it like, I don't know exactly how that's going to shake out. Are these businesses just supposed to just come up with the monies? Not every business is Walmart and Amazon. And again, it would be a big hit for them too, but not every business could be able to take that hit where you're required to work less or you're allowed to work less, but the company has to pay you all the same, even though the production of the company remains constant. I just don't understand how that math shakes out, and who we're really helping here. We're not really helping the worker if a year later that company goes out of business because they can't sustain these new demands of bringing on more employees or paying them more or supplying benefits without an increase in production because now they're taking the 5th day off. I just don't really see how that is going to work. But again, I am not Milton Friedman. I am not an economics. I'm not Thomas Sowell. I don't know everything there is to know about the economy, but it just seems to me that this is not going to shake out well. But it's one of those things that people will throw their support behind because they want to work less. Who doesn't want to work less? And it's funny because like I am a kind of a person where I used to be more about the career first, everything else second sort of thing. But as I've gotten older, I really do think that work-life balance is important. I do think that there are things that are more important than your career. And it's not necessarily like your family, something like that. But I do think that it's important. I think you have a more fulfilled life when you put human connection before your work. I think that makes people happier because, and I know we kind of talked about this on 2 Live Jew yesterday, it seems to be the case that you really don't have sustained happiness or sustained, let's just say, elevated mood after you have a big purchase or you have a new material thing that's in your life, whether it be a house, a car, a boat, whatever toy you have. Like, does it bring you excitement and joy? Yeah, like probably initially. But it wears off, just you return back to baseline. And that's great because then you're able to be excited again. It would be exhausting to always be in a state of like ecstatic joy. That would not be ideal, I think, because it would just be so fucking exhausting. And then also like you need to return to baseline because, Mother Nature intended us to always be on the hunt. If you were just like, oh, I got my car or I got my whatever, my one woman, I'm trying to think of like a caveman reference, my shelter, my whatever, my cave. And then you just stopped hunting and moving and you had no aspirations after that because you had accomplished your quote goal. Those people really didn't do well in the environment the environment in which we evolved. They died out pretty quickly because they were fully satisfied. They weren't progressing. They weren't searching. They weren't hunting. So evolution would select against that. Evolution would select for bringing you back down to baseline so that you keep hunting for that feeling, wherever it may be, that dopamine rush of getting the next kill or finding the next mate or finding, shelter, conquering, finding food, berries, whatever the case may be. It brings you back down to baseline so you're on the hunt again, because that's how you survive and thrive, and that's all that evolution cares about. Evolution is not concerned with how happy you are. Sometimes people who are very unhappy, people who score very highly on the list of dark triads, what is it, like narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. Those 3 traits are very desirable in partners. At least women find those traits to be desirable in men. Those people with those traits report that they are much more unhappy than the rest of the population. Yet that people with those traits do very, very well in the sexual marketplace. They do very, very well with women. That people who appear to be very confident and competent. Women find maybe they're a bad boy, maybe they're a CEO, maybe they're a mob boss, but they are go-getters. They are leaders. They have a lot of grit. Maybe they're slightly more aggressive. They are not very emotional. Do I want to say that? Because anger is an emotion, but I think that they're not easily rattled, perhaps. Like, they're maybe planning the long game where they're going to fucking come back and kill you, but they're not very reactionary. Those traits are very attractive in men. Women find those traits attractive. Good leadership skills. They typically acquire a lot of resources, but people with those traits report to be very unhappy. So again, just trying to say that just because you are happy, that doesn't necessarily matter in the scheme of nature and evolution, because evolution is really only concerned with 2 things, and that is survival and gene propagation. Oh, shit. Sorry. Fuck. Hold on. My bad. Hello, who's this?
Hey, it's Farva. What's going on?
What's up, Farva? How's it going?
It's going good. Hey, I just wanted to talk about your show with Seth last, your podcast.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how refreshing it is to hear you guys talk, and you guys break it down, and you guys get personal. And I suffer from anxiety, depression, and PTSD.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of battles that I fight every single day. And in order for me just to bring myself back to center, there's a lot of little exercises that I have to do.
Yeah.
Like literally every day, just so I stay centered. And I find myself walking more onto the right side of it, meaning left side is unhappy, right side is happy. And the reason being is I find little things throughout my day to appreciate that kind of keeps me on, that level on what I need to be. Now, like you said, if you get a new car or whatever, a new boat, whatever, you get excited, you get happy, but I don't put all my eggs, so to speak, in that basket to help me sustain my happiness. It's just little things, little exercises that I've gone through for the last 25 years.
Can you give me an example of an exercise?
Well, one, meditation's super huge. I meditate every single morning when I get up. And then if I go through the day, something kind of rouses me up, I'll go back to meditation. But things that are really tangible where I don't have to take time away from my desk while I'm working is like I'll listen to like a certain type of music, a certain artist, or I'll bring up a podcast. I'll listen to a podcast. I have like a little fidget thing on my desk that my daughter made me when she was little, and then I look at that and I kind of mess with that and I look at it, and it's just things that just bring me back to the center of what it took me literally 25 years to figure out what was important to me, what makes me happy, and what kind of keeps me on that even kill. Because there's times where my PTSD will really start acting up and I go straight to the tank, and I have to do everything I can to pull myself out of that.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by the tank?
I go into a real dark place.
I see. Okay.
Like a really, really dark place. Example, my son-in-law a few months ago, I was over at my in-laws' house, and I was there watching my youngest grandson just play, and I was kind of reading a book, and I'd look up and watch him play. Well, his dad came in. I get along great with his dad. We have no issues, but he just walked in the house and just said, "Hey, what's up?" And for some reason, I just wanted to get up and just start just beating the hell out of him. He didn't do anything. It just all of a sudden, it's something. His presence just triggered me for some reason. And I had
So what did you do in that? Oh, you just go for a walk. So you have some sort of control.
Well, I started crying.
Oh, you started.
My wife. I walked in. My wife and I go, "Listen, I need to leave." And she's like, "Well, what's going on?" I says, "I'm in a really not good place right now. I need to go." And she's like, "What happened?" And I told her, and I said, she goes, "Honey, just go for a walk." And it's great to have support system in my wife.
Yeah.
And I went for like a 5-mile walk. And when I came back, I felt I felt so much better.
Good.
And the urges weren't there and anything. So it's finding, and I hear you saying that, you're constantly looking for that happiness, and, you have these highs and these lows, and it kind of messes with your OCD and things like that. It's just, look for little tiny things, save your money, to tell you the truth, save your money. Look for tiny little things that truly bring happiness in your life, whether it be something tangible or a memory or music or something like that, and just kind of focus on that and have that readily available to you. And it works for me. I mean, it may not work for everybody, but it's just a suggestion for you. Because honestly, listen to you and Seth talk. You guys gel so good together.
I know. I really enjoy doing I really enjoy doing that show with him. Just because it's nice to see a different side of him, because he's extremely clever and smart and funny, and I know that a lot of the banter he has with Bubba kind of revolves around sports. Like, they really bond over that, or the card thing. So it's nice to kind of get a different side of that, because I can't have those conversations with Seth because I don't know anything about cards and sports. So, and I like to go deep. And Seth's not a dummy, so I like talking to people who've had experiences that can bring other people comfort by just saying, hey, not saying, hey, you're not alone, but basically saying, this is my story. And then when someone else hears that, they're like, oh, shit, that's kind of similar to my deal. I'm glad I'm not alone. Like, just knowing that is comforting. Because I thought OCD was a me thing until I was 13, and I've had it since birth. So since my parents wanted to take me to a shrink when I was like, I want to say 7 or 8. But I thought it was a me thing. I was compulsively washing hands, and I had this thing with kissing and germs. Not like I was making out at 6, but, my grandma would kiss me, and I remember, like, her wet lips on my face, and I'm like, this is how people get Ebola. Like, I was like, that's disgusting. Like, your mouth germs are now on my face, maybe my lips, whatever she was feeling at the time. And I remember I would go after she would give me a kiss, and I would tell my mom, like, can you tell Bubby not to do that? It, like, freaks me out. But, Bubby can't help herself. She sees her bubula. She sees me. She grabs me. She kisses me. Nice, big, juicy, wet kiss right on either on my ear, which would give me, like, tinnitus for an hour, or on my face, on my lips, whatever. And I would go into one of the bedrooms at her house, and I would scratch my face. Like a 6-year-old just scratching her face, freaking out, like hitting my face, just trying to wipe all of the germs off. But I also had enough insight to know that if my parents saw me doing this, they were going to they're going to be like, this ain't normal. So I would try to do it in private. Obviously, I would get caught because I was just trying to, like, just wiping my face and getting really, like, frustrated about it. And then it started to I didn't want my parents to kiss me because, like, fuck, they got germs too. Everybody's got germs. There's so many germs. So my parents, I remember the conversation that they had with me. They sat me on the couch and they go, look, Anna, we really want to kiss you. We're your parents. We want to show you affection. And you don't want us to kiss you. So we're going to take you to a special doctor. And I knew at that point, I'm like, oh, I'm going to the funny farm. I was maybe 7 or 8. And I'm like, I know where this is going. I don't know if I had some sort of, like, TV reference. I didn't know if I had some sort of TV reference, but I knew that it was going to be a doctor of the mind, and I knew that perhaps there would be some needles involved. I don't know. I was very scared of needles. And I just fucking was
my
like...
My biggest thing is washing my hands.
Yeah.
And my wife, she still... We've been together 10 years.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, one, I can't use this kind of soap. I have to have my own bar of soap.
Yeah.
I have to have, I wrap it in plastic and then I put it in like a soap container.
Yeah.
And whenever I start feeling myself getting a little anxious, for some reason that triggers me to start washing my hands, and I'll wash it, and then I'll put everything back up, and then I'll take it out again. I'll wash my hands again, and I'll put it back up. I do things in threes.
Yeah. Everyone's
like
got their little
the doorknob.
Yeah.
You know, it's little things. And my wife, she's like, "Oh, you just want attention." I go, "You have no idea. It's not attention."
Attention.
And like,
I do this when I'm alone, bitch. Yeah.
Like I'll refold the towels. Like she'll come in and she'll fold the towels, and I have to go back and refold the towels to the way
that the corners aren't fully aligned. Or I get it. I fully get it. But after my parents had that talk with me, I just remember like I gotta just fucking suck it up. Like I just gotta get it together because I don't want to go to the funny farm. But then what happens is much like a balloon, when you squeeze it in one direction, it just kind of pops out in another. So that's what would happen is like maybe the kissing wasn't a thing, but then all of a sudden, like I had a thing with praying like for a while where I thought I always had to pray before I ate. Otherwise I was going to go to hell. Doorknobs, then the hand washing, like, you know, counting steps, counting stairs, whatever the case may be, not stepping on cracks. I mean, I've really done it all. So that's kind of what happened. And then unfortunately I was not unable, but I didn't seek help until I was 20. So I went from about 6 to 20 with this shit. And about at the age of 13, right around my bat mitzvah, I remember, I was watching a commercial and it was, I could see it right now. It was like in like a sepia sort of thing. You know how like commercials are with like, it was probably for medication, but it said something along the lines of like, do you wash your hands excessively? Do you have compulsive thoughts? And I remember I wasn't even looking at the TV and I just heard this and like turned around and I'm like, and it's like, you may have obsessive compulsive disorder. And then, of course, it was probably like, oh, you need Prozac or, you know, whatever medication they're hawking. But I just thought it was a me thing. I didn't know it was a legitimate disorder. I was like, oh, fuck yeah. It has a name. It's not just on as a fucking weirdo. It's obsessive compulsive disorder. So that was very a long-winded way of saying it's nice to hear, you know, that you're not alone.
Oh, no. Well, when I was in the military, it was really rough for me.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, I felt like my insides were getting ripped apart because I had to fight these compulsions all the time, and I learned to deal with them. Like my biggest thing was I would touch certain things, like the tip of my finger 3 times. I'd walk by something and I'd have to touch it, and if I missed it, I had to go back and start all over. I've been able to squash all of that. I mean, sometimes the urge is still there, but I can find myself, I'm fighting it, and it's almost not even an issue anymore. But the biggest one is like folding the towels, which drives my wife crazy, washing my hands, because I go through soap and lotion because my hands dry out. So, yeah,
I get
kind
that.
of what it is. But,
yeah,
you know,
I have a lot of lotion on hand as well because the same thing, I crack and bleed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep,
so.
Absolutely. The winter is the worst.
Oh, I can only imagine because it's already dry as shit. So.
Yeah, be up here in Minnesota when it's 20 below zero.
Yeah, no thanks.
You know, it's crazy. So.
Have you considered moving to a place that's less horrific?
I'd love to, but my wife is, you know, we got roots here, so.
I gotcha.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Hey, I just want to say great shows.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being so open and so candid. Same thing was said. Spread that, you know, send that over to him as well.
I will.
You guys have a great weekend, and the show is fantastic. I loved today's show. The interviews were great.
Yeah.
And, you guys keep on doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Have a good one, Farva.
Have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Great guy. Awesome stuff. Yeah, it was awesome. I really enjoyed having Matt Arroyo. I think he likes the it's when you first walk into the Bubba Radio Network, for those that haven't been here, it is quite a stunning sight, and it's getting more and more eccentric and crazy with the TVs and the lights and the new podcasting table. It's very cool. So when people come in here, it's not like your typical clinical radio station where you have like, you know, a little room with shitty carpet and a big table with a few mics with the lights fully on. It is, you know, I think the best way to describe it, and I said this to Matt today, is it's like a cross between a sex dungeon and Times Square. That's what it feels like. It's, you know, it's dark as shit, but there's like these red lights that give it this sort of, not speakeasy, but kind of like you're doing something naughty, dungeon kind of feel. But then you also have like all the crazy lights in the TVs, and it just adds an element of pizzazz, of like entertaining shit goes down here sort of vibe. And then the bar also helps as well. And the shower's cool. And then the remnants of the stripper pole. Always a good conversation starter. Hello, last call of the day. Who's this?
John Paul of Dallas. How are you?
What's up, John Paul of Dallas? I'm doing
hey,
well.
real quick.
Yeah.
So you were talking about compulsions and stuff like that. Now, listen, here's one that I've never heard anyone talk about, and I've never confessed to anybody.
Yeah.
So let me just go ahead and tell the world, not even my best friend. But, and maybe I'm weird, maybe it's not a thing, but doing long division in your head. So, in other words, I could be on a train, on a bus, or looking at a dumpster or whatever. I know that puts me in great territory. But anyway, like seeing a phone number and going, is that divisible by 7?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Is that a prime number? I don't think that is as bizarre as you think it is. I get that too. Or I'll see a word and I'm like, I wonder how many words I could make of that word. You know, like if it's a 7-letter word, you know, I can make ear and hat and bat. And sometimes that goes through my mind when I see a longer word with a few vowels in it.
That's what New York Times, that Bumble is, you know, that spelling bee, you know, they do that. They throw out a bunch of letters, like 7 letters, and you have to make words with that. I do that puzzle every day.
Oh, do you? Okay, well, there you go. It's a game. It's a legit game.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you got that off your chest. Do you feel better about it?
You know, I actually do.
Okay, good, because it's not that fucking weird.
Love your show.
Yeah. Thank you, John Paul.
Love your show.
Van Dam.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye. Sorry about the late start. We did a full hour here. We talked about Jesus and Julius Caesar, a little OCD, mental health check, 32-hour work week. We'll see how this all goes down. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. A few announcements before we go. Make sure you have your notifications on tonight because the BARP video, the epic feature film, I believe put together by Brett, Gary Cantrell. I'll give credit to Lummy. I don't know if he had anything to do with it, but Macho Man, Seth, Bubba. I don't want to, leave anybody out or give credit where credit is due, but that will be available on YouTube at 8 p.m. tonight. So if you attended BARP, or maybe if you want to go to BARP and you kind of want to get a feel of what it's all about, make sure that you watch that tonight. I believe it's 48 minutes long. So get your popcorn, sit your fat ass on the couch, and watch that fucking video. It's going to be a good one. Okay? Next week we have Bubba 199 on March 22nd, 8 p.m. I'll be here. Macho will be spinning because I've been demoted. That's fine. I'm okay. I don't have feelings. I'm numb inside. It's no worries. Let the best man, woman, baby have the job, and that's clearly Macho Man. I'm just excited to be present, get my ass on the mic, listen to some cool tunes. Okay, that's the end of the... Oh, all right, we got a little bit more. I'm not sure what's going down now. We're in uncharted territory. But anyways, have a great weekend, guys. I'll see you on Monday.